drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Fancy in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's not.
It's heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a warm welcome. It's that time of week again. It's Sunday sermon time. And yes, it's the start of the flat, the real start of the flat, really, the proper Guineas weekend. Got a fantastic show coming up and some questions this week. I can't thank you enough. It's your show, you make it, and we'll do our best to make it as cynical and as entertaining as possible while going through racing topics. Joining me as always is Mr. John Lang and Chris. Good afternoon, chaps, as we're recording in the afternoon. I may as well say good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
We're going to get onto the Guineas review. It's going to be a busy show, but before that, John, I'd like to start off on the Guineas, right? You said something the other morning that made me think for once.
Well,
yeah. It's a very valid point, and it didn't feel like Guineas weekend at all.
no.
I don't know if that's the marketing that comes from the sport or the media that just don't give it proper airtime. What's your thoughts on that?
The media have a very different approach when it comes to big flat meetings. We have big flat meetings more or less every other weekend, really, don't we? And decent meetings in between. And whereas over the sticks, every week Cheltenham gets a mention. They have this holy grail at the end of the season that everybody's aiming at. But the flat, there's targets here, there's targets there, there's targets abroad. And they don't seem to have the same sort of focus. It's like they'll be signing off today's coverage and they probably won't say we're at Chester for 3 days next week. Always a big noise of a meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And likewise, it got Lingfield at the weekend. How much of a build-up will they give York the week after? They'll be talking about the derby, but they won't say the derby trial at Lingfield will be supplemented by the Dante and the Musadora, so on and so forth.
Got me in a thought process as to why this might be happening. And I'm going to blame, like most of it, on the media for whatever reason. And I don't know why they do it, but they just do. They start off in October with the Road to Cheltenham bollocks, in some cases before that. They've built it now around one Mecca. It all boils around that and the spring festivals. And it's as if like the spring national festivals, which have been later this year, granted due to where Easter's fell. And it's sort of hampered, I think, a lot of the coverage that the flat would normally get, because all the talk of the town obviously was Constitution Hill, etc., at Punchestown and so forth, but nothing on 2,000 guineas and 1,000 guineas. Virtually nothing in the media.
Yeah.
I think the only coverage they give to flat racing is Royal Ascot. I think everything else, including the Derby now, is ignored. It's an afterthought. This is what I think needs to change, because punters now seem to favour national hunt racing, and evidence to this, and I can give real concrete evidence as to that this is happening, that flat seems to lose people's interest, is that I spoke to a presenter of a podcast, and he's quite a well-known presenter. I'm not going to name him because it were DMs, but he said he wouldn't be doing a flat one this summer. He does the jumps one all winter, and it gets good listening figures, and he didn't want to risk doing a flat one because there's not as much listeners for the flat usually, and didn't want that to affect the listening figures for the winter if people just suddenly turn off. I found that incredible. I wasn't aware of this. Jump racing is inherently more popular than flat racing.
Well, I think the overall narrative is that flat horses are here today, gone tomorrow. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of jumps fans have that stops them following the flat game. And what I don't think the racing media make enough use of is the fact that we've got a series of 2-year-old races that give pointers towards the following season. And you could get that continuity going if you looked at those type of races closely enough, And I don't just mean the races themselves. I mean, in the run-up to Ascot, you could be highlighting Chesham types. Ipso facto, they're going to go for the Chesham, they're probably a Derby type.
Yes.
You can highlight a Coventry type from the start of the season, should it turn into a Guineas horse.
Yes, it frustrates the life out of them, I'll say it, because there's evidence that flat is dying in terms of liquidity on the exchanges. And I know Betfair, for example, have taken a big hit anyway with affordability checks and people just maybe being turned off the
Yeah.
products, losing accounts, things like that, and just turned off racing completely. But the turnover for the 2000 Guineas in 2010 was 5.3 million, and the figure on Saturday was 1.6 million.
Terrifying.
That is an incredible drop. To say betting is flourishing all over the world. And I think if racing's rulers or leaders are listening to this, if you watch the Americans, how they market their products, it's all about the Triple Crown. And the Triple Crown is the centerpiece of their entire calendar. It's all about winning the Triple Crown. We have got no focus like National Hunt Racing has, which is the road to Cheltenham. Like you said, we've got summer festivals, and there's no actual focus on anything. When do you hear the Triple Crown being talked about nowadays on the flat?
Really, the only time you hear it talked about is people talking it down. Because I guarantee the minute you had a Guineas winner that wins a derby, the first thing somebody's going to say is, well, you don't want to be winning the fucking ledger with that.
Yep. Oh, you get golden horned, don't you?
You know, and it's ridiculous. You know, I mean, I maintain if City of Troy won the 2000 Guineas, despite what we know subsequently, where he went and all the rest of it, I absolutely guarantee he'd have been at Doncaster in September. He'd give his right arm for a Triple Crown winner, would Magna.
I always say, though, if you've enough speed to win a Guineas and enough stamina to win a ledger, you don't deserve to be cast or fashion-wise as a National Hunt Stallion. Incredibly difficult thing to pull off, as is the Triple Crown in America, because they don't breed out-and-out stayers. So the fact that you've got the speed to win Preakness, and then the second one, and then you've got to step up 3 furlongs to the Belmont. It's an extraordinary horse that can actually do that at the top level. So that's what makes it so special. And the flat racing itself needs a proper focus. And I think the media need to play a part in it as well, because I'm sick of the media just going on and on and on and on about National Hunt Racing.
Well, it's easy coverage, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's rinse and repeat year on year. Whereas if you look at the American coverage, it's on network TV. It's very differently focused, isn't it? You know, I mean, there's none of this looking for a story about the people. It's all form-based, betting-based, breeding-based. It's a racing product, you know. They treat the followers of the sport as adults, and they're not looking to appeal to people who don't like the sport. Because that kind of coverage does turn off racing people.
No, it's an issue, and I think it needs a broader discussion at higher tables, because flat racing for me is the pinnacle sport, because you're trying to find the fastest horse across the field. A lot of National Hunt fanatics will say, well, that's boring. It's not. Speed and watching an animal, filly or colt, that covers ground, a nice big stride, powering clear, is like one of the greatest sights for me that you can watch it. You know, some people it'll be jumping a fence at exhilarating speed. It is what it is, but I do think flat racing deserves more coverage. Anyway, on to racing review. What we'll do is I'm not going to go into too much of the 3-day meeting at Newmarket. I'm just going to cover the 2,000 Guineas and 1,000 Guineas, because we've got so many questions from listeners. So I want to get those in. The 2,000 then on Saturday, John. Vintage renewal, not so vintage renewal. Anything take your eye in the paddocks? Future targets for any horses in the races that you think, right, I like this one for this type, etc., for this race?
I was impressed with Dream Impact. I thought that one had done well over the winter.
Yeah.
And I was also impressed with how he shaped in the race. I think he definitely needs to go up in trip now. Whether Jesse will go straight to the Derby, I don't know. I thought he ran a nice race in this.
I don't think he handled the dip.
No, I mean, he missed the kick, and then Shane Foley, who wouldn't be my idea as tip-top class, he kind of rushed him up a bit. The dip didn't suit, so you'd possibly worry about going to Epsom anywhere. Nice easy 12 at the Irish Derby might be just what the fella wants, you know.
I just worry about him at Epsom, because he's got quite a stride on him. I'm not so sure. He didn't like the dip at Newmarket, which if they're going for a derby, I like to see them come down the dip easily, and then that boosts my confidence for Tattenham Corner and onwards. But I prefer the Irish, if I know what you're saying. Let's go through the principles, really. Ruling Court, what did we think of him?
He didn't do a lot wrong. He's bred to go a lot further, isn't he? With High Chaparral Mare.
Yes.
And if you were just looking at that breeding there, you'd say, well, what price Epsom? I mean, I don't know whether they've announced any plans or not yet. I don't think I'd be looking much further than going to Epsom the first weekend in June, to be honest.
I think it's the logical next step. I'm not sold that he will stay. I know he'll get 10. He'll get 10 on his head. Will he get 12? He might not. I've seen horses that I know that aren't really true 12 furlong horses, like Nashwan in the past.
And they get 12 round there.
They get 12 round there because they've got the class anyway to get away with it.
It's all about travelling. As long as we don't get your atties in the derby,
yeah,
you can get away with it with a 10 furlong horse.
I think that's the next step. That'll please Coolmore. Magny will have been stood there, John.
Oh.
He'll have not been bothered about expanded. He'd have been screaming this one to hold on from Field of Gold in the final furlong, of course, being by Justify. Yes, he's done it again. The Coolmore's done it again. So, Ruling Court, Derby, Sammy and John. Field of Gold, the runner-up. We've had quite a few questions on this regarding...
I can imagine.
Kieran's back to skid mark now. He got shoe mark back earlier on this spring for a bit. I tell you, might be even madder than Gosden were after the race. When Gosden looked seething, didn't he, after the race? Absolutely seething.
I tell you what, though, doesn't he hang his jockeys out to dry?
Oh, yeah.
He never fucking misses, does he?
No.
You know, it's shit, that, in all honesty. Whatever he thought about what Showmark might and might not have done wrong, you don't know that publicly if you want that lad to have any confidence.
No, keep it private. It's a lot of pressure being a top flight job, because his decision probably cost Field of Gold the race to probably just have him that bit too far back. If Ruling Court went the mile route, which I don't think he will, but if he did, Field of Gold would be favourite to turn the Guineas form around.
For sure.
So that shows there's been a bit of a rick there in the saddle. So I feel for you punters, if you've backed Field of Gold anti-purse on the day, maybe you should have got paid on that one. I agree. I can't really say anything otherwise than that. The third horse interested me, John, Shadow of Light, for the Commonwealth Cup. I thought this has got a lot of speed.
Yeah, I just had the feeling he was maybe failing that ground away a bit.
Yep.
Put it into context, if the ground wasn't quite sociable, he's only got base of fucking length, hasn't he? Probably that would say he's a Guineas winner.
Yeah, yeah.
I would worry about another run on ground as quick as that, I think. But if there was a bit of juice in it at Ascot for the Commonwealth Cup, I think it'd be very, very difficult to beat.
He's probably a true 7 furlong horse.
Yeah.
That's bang on for it. And I think, again, if it comes up soft, something like the City of York,
all right, yeah,
in August, is possibly a suitable target for him as well, you'd think. A lot of promise for him. I did like him. What did you think to the fourth, Tornado Alert?
I thought he got the best ride ever possible.
Yeah, because there's not much pace, yeah.
Still was absolutely fantastic, setting the fractions there, and I think he got the absolute max out of that horse. And as did the trainer. Little word for Dusty here. He gets sent all the shite. Well, he doesn't even get all the shite now, does he? He probably gets half the shite. He continues to perform and deliver.
The James Owen horse, Wimbledon Hawkeye?
I think he's just about maxed out. I think we know where we are with him because he more or less runs the pound with his Craven run, hasn't he?
I think he is what he is. I think he's a Group 3.
He's a reliable old stick, as they say over the sticks.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be very easy to place this year now.
Just owned by cunts, basically.
Well, there's that as well.
Shout out for Callum Shepherd.
Yep, Callum.
Scordy Champ, the Baby Jersey Force. I noticed this one. I'm sorry for going all Captain Angus here. Captain Angus McNair. But I noticed in the day tour, this fucker has a massive stride, enormous. Gets well over 8 meters, 8.12, I think. It's just stupid. I don't think Newmarket suited him at all. I think back at the Curragh, if they decide to run him out quick and go for the Irish 2,000 guineas, I think you'll see a different animal. I don't think that was his course at all.
I thought he hated the track.
Yeah. And of course, disappointment for Aidan over the weekend. Obviously expanded, running no sort of race, 9th of 11. Quite disappointing. And that was topped off today, John, as we go to today's race, the 1,000 guineas, by a very disappointing run from Victoria Falls.
Aiden's had a nightmare run up to both guineas, though, hasn't he? Let's be fair.
Is he as bothered?
It was one setback away from having to run his goldfish in one of these, wasn't he? His recruits were getting very thin on the ground, shall we say. I was absolutely appalled that my horse didn't make it to the 2,000, to be honest, because I don't think he'd have had a hell of a chance. But that aside, his team has been diminished from the end of March, really, hasn't it? And I wasn't really expecting Expanded to do an awful lot, to be honest.
No, it seemed like he's about his fifth choice, didn't it? Like everything that he possibly had last autumn, you wouldn't have put Expanded as his number one contender.
Well, it was ridden in that decent race at the back end last year. He was ridden to pick the bits up, really, wasn't he? And I mean, you can't go into a classic off a ride like that straight into the heat of battle. He would probably run a much, much, much improved race if they went somewhere like the Jersey Stakes, I would imagine.
Yes, Desert Flower for our Jacko, who, by the way, Jack's had a tough punting year so far. As we all have, it's not gone to plan this 2025. But Jack landed some nice anti-post bets on Desert Flower, so I was very pleased for him that she managed to make all. I think Jack said to me, he won't mind me saying this, he says he was about 40% down this calendar year, and he said Desert Flower would halve that if she won. So you can't begrudge anyone that's suffering a winner. So Desert Flower did the business, but probably had the run of the race.
Certainly had the run of the race. Delighted for Jack. Other than that, I think it's one of the shittest guineas we've seen in a hell of a long time.
Do you know what? I'm sick of this. They do it at Newbury. They do it at Newmarket, especially, right? There's two tracks. They tend to do it a lot. And obviously Ascot in big fields, but they're splitting into two groups all the time.
Yeah.
And I can't for the life of me understand why.
No.
You've even said it, you need a racing line.
Yeah.
The second horse, Flight, I understand why you're saying it's a shit guinea on form, because if Flight's got an official rating of 100, as a handicapper, you've got to rate Flight as the moral winner.
Yeah.
That's got two horses to race with. The others have got everyone to race with. And
I think if Flight could have had a lead for longer to take her into the race, I think she'd have won.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think Desert Flowers improved over the winter.
No, it's got the job done, and it's probably one I'm not wanting to punt going forwards.
I wasn't keen on her last year, and what I've seen today, I'll be very, very keen to take her on going forward.
Yeah.
If anything pops up, of course. I mean, at the minute, I don't know what the fucking hell is back to bite her over her now, but surely to God something's going to come through.
Fillies at this time of year, though, I've seen it many a time where you go to bed with the form, and then in the summer and the warmer weather, I mean, it's been pretty warm a lot of late here, but fillies can come to themselves at a certain time of year, and all of a sudden form's just worthless at this time of year. It just don't work out. Like Lake Victoria, we know she's had a trouble preparation.
This is a terrifying card, this one, isn't it? With all these fillies and mares races on this one. You've got the Pretty Polly, the Darling. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's even a fillies novice, for God's sake. Anybody going there and actually paying for a ticket, you want to buy a bridge?
We're supposed to be promoting flat racing here. What are we doing? Now we're saying it's shit. Red Letter was my selection on the podcast, and I was disappointed with her because Gurr would have certainly not left no stone unturned in terms of fitness.
It's a Gurr curse, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, every time he brings one over here, isn't it?
Jesus Christ. I mean, it doesn't matter how good they look. The hand of God intervenes. It's like that fucking lottery thing, isn't it? You know, when the big, massive hand comes and points at you. Only with Gurr's horses, it just comes and makes a fist and fucking smashes them.
It's the Gurr hoodoo when he brings them over here. No wonder. He's probably getting fed.
He's a smashing trainer. He's a lovely fella.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of the nicest blokes. He's amazing racing. Deserves every bit of success he's got. He's worked fucking hard. Jesus Christ, he cannot for the life of him get a winner over here, can he?
I'm not buying a bar of that 1,000 guineas form. It's in the bin for me in terms of I'd be prepared to rip it up in terms of if they met again at Ascot or something like that. I'd ask you for your paddock selection. I think I'd say which has done well.
I'm just saying I haven't seen them.
You'll be watching.
I said I'm going for a coffee while this is on.
You'll be watching Chinese Open Snooker or something like that on other channel.
Yeah.
Fillies races on. Right, that sort of covers that off. But just one more thing. We saw a special filly today, I felt, in the first winner. Falakea, Owen Burroughs filly. About the only one of the couple of things I got right over the week was Falakea. And she was going to be one of my 5 to follow for a Group 1 horse potential. And I only rejected her because she's a filly and I didn't want 2 fillies in my 5, like I said to you. She looked very good to me. I'm just thinking, what do they do with her, though? Because I don't think she gets 12 right now. She might do next year if they keep her in training.
She's a new bear, so in theory she won't mind a bit of cut, so you should be thinking the French Oaks, surely.
That's actually a really good shout. When is the French Oaks? Is it the week after the Derby or the same day? Is it the same day as the Derby weekend, the French Derby and Oaks?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's the week after.
Can't remember on that one. Just thinking time frame.
Time frame would be great. We're fine with time frame.
Yeah, I liked it because it were a second start and she was very fizzy.
Yeah.
I was pleased with Jim because Indian Jim. Yeah, they pushed it out to about 3.75 and then knocked it into about 2.
I would only say, would you want them in the running in France?
No, but then I think you have to use a stride. This is the thing. That's why I like the ride today because he didn't. Now, if that's Buick, if Buick's on that, Buick's taking a pull and trying to get her to drop it and fighting her. And when you do that with horses that are huge, with big strides, I just don't think it works. And Jim, I think, had just went, do you know what? There's no point in this. Just let her roll. And while she's keen and getting on with it, she did more than anyone would have wanted, really, in his hands. I still think there's so much untapped potential there.
It's kind of clicking now with Owen Burroughs, isn't it? Would you say?
Yeah, he's got some tackle this spring.
Getting up towards 20%. Dangerous when horses are fancied in the market. Always a good sign. He reminds me very much of Jeremy Tree.
Oof. We've gone from, we can't have one from Owen Burroughs to legends like Jeremy Tree.
He's dangerous. And Jeremy Tree was always dangerous. You know, you couldn't ignore him.
No.
You know, and if Burroughs horses sneaking in the betting, you're going to get the wind up if I'm not with it.
We'll move on from racing. Hope you enjoyed that critique from the weekend and get something from it. Finishing up on the racing, Charlotte Russell.
Yeah. Chris, say that.
You disgust me, both of you. You're revolting.
Racing's Community Engagement Week next week. I think this is really good. Catterick are doing a Racing Reminiscence Day to support mental health. I think that's really good for people to come together. By the way, I like the way what Go Racing in Yorkshire are doing at the moment. They have a group chat. So when people go going racing, especially the grey pound, Chris, the grey pound.
Yes, none greyer than our pound.
They've no one to talk to. And they're getting them all together in this group to see who's going. So I think that's outstanding.
Sounds horrible. I didn't imagine meeting a room full of people like us. Couldn't be any fucking worse, could you? Oh
no.
You'd rather be in a home than that, wouldn't you? Having Campbell's soup out of a bowl.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the first thing. So Go Race in Yorkshire. When Yorkshire Tracks are doing a day's volunteering to paint a new built facility to support young people with disabilities in the Rydale area. That sort of finishes the racing stuff. We can have a discussion on course SPs. Do you think the time is right now for racing to go back to on-course MPs as Big Corp craftily, when the pandemic hit back in 2020, decided they were going to have their own SPs? Is it time to go back to on-course SPs for a fair return for the Billy Bunters, chaps?
Yes, you get the SP reporters back on track. It was that greasy little fucker that ended up working for VC.
Neil Wilkins. Wilkins.
Yeah.
He had the old cigar on. Beautiful dresser.
Yeah.
Immaculate. Absolutely immaculate.
But England midfielder him as well.
He's dead now, isn't he, poor bugger? He died of a brain tumour. Yeah, well, no, he died of a brain tumour, didn't he, a few years back. He was quite a spivvy guy, very sharp.
Yeah. There must be some more spivvy guys out there, though, that we could...
Oh, millions of them. Yeah. Millions of them. No shortage of spivs.
No.
Just look at the sofa at Nick Luck on Sunday. You'll find that it's a weekly spivathon, isn't it?
Yeah.
But with someone selling petrol coupons and not... Yeah.
We'll come on to that in a second. But yes, it is. It's time to back on course bookmakers, really. They're the living and breathing, well, just some of them. You should support on course. Because a question here that we've had, and it's the only national question, I am taking. This is incredible. We're getting national hunt questions on fucking Guineas Day, John. It's a disgrace.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Wash your mouths out.
What kind of people are these?
I have no idea. Joe Huddleston, who is, of course, an on-course bookmaker.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, I'm sure you could fiddle the SPs for Billy Bunters. Yeah. When everyone's gone to stands and not betting anymore, just keep shoving it out. 13-8, 7-4. Give punters better value, Joe. But Joe says he has a lot of problem with saying that Punchestown pisses on Cheltenham.
Well, it's not entirely Joe's fault then, because I did say that on the question thread this morning.
You did.
I just felt it does, really. I think it's just a nicer week, really. It's not as intense. There's good quality racing. There's good sales. You don't get the real shorties like you do at Cheltenham. Well, apart from maybe Constitution Hill.
Which we were right on. From a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Needed correcting, obviously. Thanks, Joe.
I thought I'd get that. Of course, it's May the 4th. Be with you. That's the national hunt thing done. It's terrible. If I get another national hunt question between now and October, it will not be read out. And that's no slight on you, because we value your questions. We need a focus here. You've got to focus. Focus on the job in hand. And the job is flat racing from now on.
And Wimbledon week. And we might come up with some tips like we have in snooker. Yeah.
And being spectacularly wrong.
Please, God, no. Yeah. Haven't they suffered enough? Fucking.
Our snooker tips are terrible. I don't understand the game, to be honest. I don't even know why I'm tipping on it. But Basher Watts, I think this fellow needs a little bit more scrutiny. Yes, I'm going to bring Chris in on this, because what you're dealing with here is, I'm not saying it is.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying it is. But this is the kind of schemes that we've all seen in the past, being very experienced bettors in the game, go spectacularly wrong for people. So, Chris, I'm sure you read a bit about on Basher and what he's doing with that horse that called She's Perfect, that was placed in a Group 3 at Longchamp, heading for the French Guineas.
Yeah.
And he has a 62 syndicate members travelling to the French 2,000 guineas for their appearance in that. What is this? Is this leased? Is this owned? Because I can see no clarification on this whatsoever.
That's the issue. And to say at the outset, there's no suggestion that there's any sort of misfeasance here. But I think it does stand or deserve further scrutiny, because this is an individual who has set up seemingly a very successful syndicate with his first roll of the dice. So well done on that. Has enjoyed seemingly a lot of publicity via Luck on Sunday. There does seem to be a degree of opaqueness in terms of the relationship between those who own, quote, shares in the filly. Are they owning actual physical shares, or are they leasing it, or is it something else? Now, as I say, there's no suggestion that is anything untoward, but when you have somebody that has exploded onto social media, such that he's now had a slot on television, I think the question needs to be asked. And I think the wider question is it time for these type of syndicates to be regulated? Because there doesn't seem to be any huge barrier to entry for anyone setting these things up. And if you look at the nonsense that Nick Goff had to endure with Weatherby's via his desired purchasing a share of a horse with Jim Boyle, and ultimately couldn't be bothered with all the scrutiny that his investment attracted, surely the same degree of scrutiny should be applied to commercial syndicates. And I don't know anything about the individual Watts. I don't know really the basis on which that horse is offered to members. But I think, he could do himself a huge service to his business if he came out and responded and said, actually, the contractual relationship is X, Y, Z. It's all very clear. And I think you'll see, if it's all above board, you'll see hockey stick growth, because people just should need that desired level of comfort. So I think there are a lot of questions being asked, I think.
Well, there is, because I require transparency. And I would imagine getting on Luck on Sunday and sat on a sofa being relatively unknown.
Well, completely unknown, isn't it? Within the last 6 months, if you said this conversation 6 months ago, no one would have heard of him. But he's come from nowhere. He's done very well, seemingly, with his early purchases. His star is in the ascendancy. But we've seen this time and time again. As I say, I'm not saying there isn't any untoward. I'm sure there isn't, but there are questions that I think people are asking on social media, and they are complaining that the individual concerned doesn't seem too keen to answer those questions. Now, he may have his own, maybe dealing with those privately, but I think there's questions that need to be asked at least.
Yes, indeed. That story, I think, will sort of develop, I think, over the months ahead. And I think all we're asking for as a podcast really is for transparency there as to what people are actually getting for their money. Maybe if you're in with this Basher Watt syndicate, maybe you want to come forward, tell us what it is. Tell us that it's all fine, it's hunky dory. We get a share of the prize money. We get this. That's all we want to know. What is it? Because there doesn't seem to be any clear guidance on this. And like we said about Nick Goff, Chris, Nick Goff could afford to own a horse and pay for his own ride.
Absolutely,
Right.
he could.
And I find it shocking as well. They don't accept professional gambling winnings as earnings, which is just bizarre. Anyway.
Which is in a sport that's funded by gambling. It's absolute nonsense. It's absolute bollocks, isn't it? Really.
I am going to pay credit to the BHA. Although the BHA got it wrong on this, they should have done just an exemption form that if you don't pay your training fees, the trainer has the right to sell the horse immediately. If they deem it that they feel worried, they will be paid. Every owner should have to sign that. And that's simple rather than affordability checking them. It's far less red tape. It's just like, right, if you fail to pay, and you won't get a Rebecca Menzies situation where she's left on for tens of thousands of pounds. There you go. That's a good solution from us, but again, ignored. I want to pay credit to the BHA, actually, because on their recent podcast, they name-checked us as...
their most hated people in the world. Was that it?
Well, that. But no, at least they did, right? And this is the thing. It doesn't matter if you dislike people or you can't agree on topics or you hate them or however you want to put it. The fact that they said it on their podcast and said it was a really good interview by Jack Veitch interviewing James Sanderson, Clark of the Course, I was pleased with that because they name-checked us. That's what you're supposed to do. The Dirty Racing Post referred to us as a podcast. You absolute dirtbags.
Touties,
Industry mouthpieces. Horrible for Willie Bund.
Journalism, that's what it is. All it is.
I pay 50 quid a month and I have to pay 39 quid a year for an ad blocker so I can just fucking use site. But do you know what the varmints have done? If you use an ad blocker on Racing Post, I put Bucky ads flashing up all the time. You can't use the search facility to search for horses. You know, when you type a horse naming. They're absolute vile. They're a vile operation. Part of me hopes that they go bust. I really do. And I don't like saying things like that in racing. I want to support racing. But part of me does because I just think the attitude of the staff that work there.
The BHA could send them busters the ads online if they had half a mind to, if they wanted to tap their own website up enough.
Yeah, everything could have been done in-house with investment and a few loans here and there to maybe buy totes and exchanges as a business plan. But that ship sailed. Right, questions time. We need to cheer you up, those that are suffering like us. Right, we need a cheer up here. Mark says, has Gosden told Thady he's back in control because he seems to be the centre of attention right now and Thady just seems to be on the outside. Very little seen of Thady right now. I've seen, there's lots of reruns of Tipping Point, John, on ITV4 and shit like that, so maybe he's into that. I don't know.
I think that there's every chance that Big John has told Thady he's perfectly at liberty to go and watch Tipping Point for the next 8 to 10 months, really, just to steady the ship, shall we say.
Paul Smith wasn't happy with the ride from Skidmark or the rush to defend him from the Gravy Trainers on ITV, even after Gosden had made his feelings clear. I think you're always going to get that from mainstream TV, as we've said on previous shows.
Again, I'm just disgusted that the Gravy Trainers on the telly didn't get into Gosden a bit about chucking him under the bus.
No, they're frightened, aren't they?
They're in such awe of Gosden. You know, and I mean, if ever there was an awkward question they'd ask it, I mean, that's it, surely. Why do you keep throwing jockeys under the bus?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Do you think, can you explain how it's supposed to do any good? He can't convince everybody that giving Frankie that sabbatical was the best thing for him, didn't he? And, well, as if I know everything, I can make a jockey do this. Nah, rubbish. Terrible.
Yeah, he looked visibly shaken, I think, after the race. He was like in shock that he hadn't won, I think. But it is what it is. It's sport. It's not the same as us betting.
Yeah.
if we've had $8,000 on it, you feel sick that you hadn't drawn, but that's what it is. I got Kingman beat. The Kingman's only defeat of his career. Game went out.
We aren't going to the press, though, and casting
Stop
shade
fucking time. We
on the stable jockey, are we? Why would you do that when he's your return jockey? He's going to be less confident the next time he's riding a big one.
Yeah, Dave Bradshaw's been on. He's a good fan of the shirt. And he said, we've been harsh on Skidmark. The horse didn't pick up as quickly as they thought. Expect it to, in my opinion. Dave, I've got some stats on this, actually. If you look like in the early part of his races, Field of Gold, he's quite scratchy in his movement early. He doesn't hit top speed until later in his races. And that's been the pattern of him. That was like the Craven. Craven fell apart. He just come like absolutely blasting through. And that's him. He did the same in the Guineas. It was like a carbon copy of the Craven, really, except he just couldn't nail one that was just slightly better positioned on the day. But I think that's what's holding Field of Gold back. If you watch him in the early stages, his movement's just slightly scratchy, as if he's not extending properly. Whether that's by design because they're holding him back, I don't know. But you might have a point, Dave. They might be a bit harsh on old Mr. Schumacher here, but that's another opinion. Obviously, conversely to what a lot of people are saying. RD thought on moving the Guineas to Southall. Newmarket.
Yes, no, I agree with that. Yeah, up for that.
If you're a long-term listener to this show, John just turns everything into all weather.
Yeah.
And then
Quite right.
It shuts all this going shit up, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah.
But I've said you've got to paint it green, though. Like,
you have to give it that illusion of grass. That's what you want.
It's a terrible look, isn't it? Like, I hate it when I go to a track and I see like beige.
Paint it purple and then it's got that international appeal, hasn't it?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Whatever, really. Anything funky but there's got to be something. That beige look on it. It's just for the landscape. It's your conference centre.
Just imagine it's a turf in 1976. It don't look like that anyway.
Yeah, that was the ground back then, weren't it? Yeah, like Harding Places. They never said that though back then, did they?
I don't know. I think there was quite a lot of hard ground forecasting and stuff at the time, but they just ran them then.
Mark says Godolphin got new improved deluxe carrots. Well, we did mention it sort of on the tipping show where we said anything that's wintered in Maydan may or may not have an advantage. And you saw today from Cinderella's, what's imaging? Cinderella's Dream, John?
Yeah.
She pissed up.
Yeah, there was a bit of benefit there from something, wasn't there? I wonder if it's anything to do with that new M&S range of carrots where the vermouth and the butter dressing them.
I don't know, but I tell you what would be interesting this year. You mentioned Dusty Bin earlier, right? And you said about, full credit to him. If he sends anything to Royal Ascot, especially in handicap, I'm going to keep a very close eye on them at Royal Ascot because they'll be out there, give him the best feed. Be careful, yeah. And then they bring him over for Ascot. Bang! We love this game. He might have got Zarudi back in fold. That's why he won't come on the pod.
Possibly.
That's definitely the reason. There can be no other reason, can there?
Well, Luke Tucker, smallish field for a Guineas. Is that a concern going forward?
Couldn't give a shit.
Yes, it's a massive concern.
Why?
Because we're going to end up with 4 and 5 running Guineas the way things are headed.
Easier to pick a winner, isn't it? Smaller fields are good. That's what we want. 5 runner races. That's what we want.
Chris every time comes from
three out the way. Yeah,
give me a winner.
Yeah, that's all we care a shit about. It's a gambling sport. Yeah, no, you're right, John. Of course, it must be long term a concern. That has to be problematic.
What worries me is the standards clearly dropping, and yet there's less people willing to give it a spin up. I mean, you go back to pick one out the air, 79 when Chris was favourite for the Guineas.
I was, yes, that's right. I remember it well.
There was millions of fucking runners, There was a really strong favourite, proven Group 1 performer.
Yeah.
The field was massive. Everybody was like having a dig trying to get the place or whatever. Now, I mean, we had a fairly uninspiring field and we got, 10 or 11?
There's a question that sometimes finding questions on Twitter is quite hard because they disappear into things, but there's one I know of a question this week, so I'm sorry I can't give you your name. He said basically, are there still jockeys races? Your opinion still. Chris, don't you think that length, like 4 or 5 runner races?
Yeah.
Don't you think that
Yeah.
lends a bit of heads together stuff?
Yeah.
Of course it does. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, people say, "Oh, it doesn't go on." The overwhelming, the driving factor is human nature. If people can see a way of getting money and not getting caught, they're going to do it. They really are, and that's not a criticism, but it's just acknowledgement that human beings are fallible. And as we like to say from Wall Street, the thing about money, Bud, is it makes you do things that you don't want to do. And that's absolutely right. I don't think they're as widespread as a lot of people think, but undoubtedly they go on. Absolutely, they have to. It's human nature. It has to go on.
Yeah, I think as well, when you've got lower exchange liquidity, it's more prevalent now. The late money.
Prevalent. Right? We had this last week.
A burden. Right. Yeah, we're back again, aren't we? Prevalent.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
That one, yeah. That one.
I can't even speak anymore.
I want that one, yeah.
I want that one. I want to go to Helsinki.
Yeah, no, don't like it. Want to be Smith. Yeah.
Right, jockey races. We know this goes off because it's like the weighing room info comes in, the money piles in late on the exchange, and lo and behold, the one that they've backed in front with no pace press. It happens so many times. And I'm not saying it happens every time, but it happens a lot. Because I watch a lot of races, that's when you notice. Is it a concern going forwards? I think everything's a concern with small fields. Yeah. The World Pool doesn't want them. You can't grow racing without competitive fields. And sadly, but we've come to a stage of play where if we're selling our best horses abroad, or everyone's coming to bilge on our best bloodstock and take them to Australia, King Kong, and America, we're going to be left racing probably what you're seeing this weekend for the rest of the season. It's just how it is. Get used to it until the tide changes. And hopefully we can change the tide. That's it. Just make enough noise. Lie down in the middle of a race course when the race kicks off or something like that.
Oh, like Sherman, lads. 50 years since the strike, isn't it, this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, 50 years, yeah.
There you go. If enough people want it, you can get it. Rat podcast being on. I know criticism of rides as a tired hobby horse, but the pearls to swine ratio is all to fuck recently, wouldn't you say? Race analysis is increasingly less about forms today and more the hope in finding a nugget of decent jockeyship sweet corn in among the shit.
Oh, nice. What a lovely metaphor.
Yeah. I like rap. Pete Butler, that is.
Oscar Wilde's got fuck out to worry about, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's dead mind. Yeah,
exactly. Right, we move on. Harry Diamond. I didn't know this, actually. Ascot moving next year from the Wednesday to the Friday.
News to me. Unpleasant news, I would say. It's yet another decent midweek card moving towards the weekend.
So it clashes with Newmarket Goodwood.
Yeah, we're going to end up with a right mess, aren't we? Just like we do with Super Saturday and all these others. You know, it's not good, is it? Not good at all. They all want to race on the same day. Yet none of them want to race on a Sunday. Why is that?
I don't know. The thing is, like, we've got Sunday racing, but they've wheedled that out, haven't they? They had big prize money to start with.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to get things now where it's like shit racing and staff have got to run out.
All these 30 courses that are slightly moving races to Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Why don't the BHS say, well, you can't do that. You can go on a Sunday and make it an epic weekend. I mean, Super Saturday could be an epic weekend. But as it is, it's just a really shit Saturday if you're punting, isn't it?
Sure. Emo's been on. Turning Newmarket into a 3-day meeting is a joke. Cards are shite. Me and John have been advocates of this. Less is more. If you can get 2 six race cards of top-class racing, that surely is beneficial for racing and certainly turnover, etc. Whilst we're doing what we're doing, bookmakers are in control, as we know, so clearly with fixtureless planning, and we're at the mercy of that right now. Lord Worcestershire has been on. I like Lord Worcestershire. Do we need to club together and buy Councillor Woodman a new dog? The current one has obviously lost its appeal. Of course, poor Councillor Woodman is no longer Councillor Woodman.
Oh, we voted out.
He got thrashed by reform at the local council election, as have many Conservative and Labour councillors over the course of these voted events, which I don't know about you, Chris, but politics doesn't interest me in the slightest. I just want Councillor Woodman to do well because Councillor Woodman is a very good man. to a degree anyway. No.
He should have bought a bulldog, shouldn't he? That would appeal to the reform voters, wouldn't it? British bulldog. That would have got him the vote.
Yeah, he should have sacked. I think it's a Labrapoodle or something.
Lab, no good. Should have like an XL bully or something on a chain called Zoltan or Tyson or something like that.
Get his head shaved and start wearing a vest.
Yeah, exactly right. Quite right. He should have. He failed to read the room, didn't he? And he's paid the price. Unfortunately.
Yeah, the room was getting pretty nasty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well,
all over the place.
Yeah. So we're running short on time. We're going to keep going. Neil Watson, who would be horse racing's answer to God, the Pope, and the Archbishop of Canterbury?
Well, all in one.
Well, you've got to find someone that that defends paedophiles, and there's your answer, isn't it? Because that's what the church is famous for, isn't it? The Catholic Church. That's just alienated half our listeners. Yeah. So find a paedophile advocate, and there's your man.
There's not that many in racing, is there?
Don't know. No idea.
I think racing, to be honest, is just a bit more fruity. It's not about like the pedo angle. They're mostly swingers, aren't they? It's
mostly just like sex, don't they?
Well, that's it. It's just
that fresh air and straw, isn't it? That's what that gets them going, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like farmers' wives and things. Like
they all stay in the lanes, like, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Next question, Ronnie Omelette.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. What's the worst thing you've ever done and got away with?
Fucking Christ. I genuinely can't say it on here.
I know, it's hard to say because obviously many people have done many bad. I thought about this question and there's things I could say and think, fucking hell. If I say that, then they're going to go. And I'm not a bad person.
Retrospective action.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anything where the case isn't entirely closed, I mean, you can't really...
Yeah.
No.
It's a good question.
It is, Ronnie.
That's members only, isn't it?
No, it's when you turn your phones off, it pub right. No, I'm not recording this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I can't do it on a pod. I'd love to do it, but it's not possible. Bert Doncaster, what's your best impersonation or impression? Right, so John, yours was Johnny Murter. You can nail that.
I think my best Marcel Marceau.
Go on then.
Yeah, Morris Minor.
You want to say it again?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. The mime artist. Yeah. Very good. That's uncanny, John. That is uncanny.
It's like he's in the room, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. I was thought he was there with me now. Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, obviously you do a very good Irish.
Des Donovan, that's it. That's all I do. I only do Des Donovan. That's it. That's it.
Can't do it.
Your man, fucking your man. That's all he says. Your man. Hey, fucking. Or have a fucking horse next week. Or fucking. It's every other word's fucking. Yeah, if you just say the word fucking, that's it. That's Des Donovan. Honestly, and if he's listening, he'll know what I mean. That's it. Every other word has got to be fucking. You can say anything. It doesn't matter. Just make a load of series of noises and grunts, but you have to punctuate it with fucking. That's it. That's the impression. Anyone can do it.
Producers turn round and thinks I can do Zippy or something. No, Chris, you can do. Can you do Zippy?
Chris does a good Zippy.
No. Oh, yes, George. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I like rain. That's good. Oh, yes, George. Yes. Your spoon got in the way of my tower, or whatever he said. Yeah, when he knocked over the tower of bricks. Check that out on YouTube. It's very good.
Rod Jane and Freddie Threeball.
Freddie Krueger, yeah.
Freddie Threeball.
They call him Freddie for nothing.
Yeah, they didn't. That's right. Brilliant stuff.
I bet they put bungle suit on at some point, didn't they? In them Threeball.
Well, someone pointed out, why is it that Bungle used to spend all day walking around in the nude, but when he went to bed, he used to put on pajamas? And that's absolutely true. That's absolutely bang on. I read that, and so I thought, fucking saw that. Yeah, he used to put a pair of pajamas on, but he used to be walking around in a buff all day, didn't he? And I have to offer a correction. About 18 months ago, I argued till I was blue in the face that there was an episode where Patricia Hodge played Jeffrey Haynes' girlfriend, and everyone's no, you're talking bollocks. Well, absolutely, I was talking bollocks. It was Jane Asher. So I apologise to all those people who I said were completely wrong. Jane Asher played Jeffrey's girlfriend in one episode of Rainbow, not Patricia Hodge. So that's a correction you can offer. We should get out more, shouldn't we?
We should actually.
Yeah, fucking now grown men talking about children's programmes.
This is definitely showing. Tommy Raymond, what's your favourite racing romances? Holly and Tom. Haley and Jamie, Haley and Tom, Kieran and Kirsty. And if you could make your dream couple, who would you put in the breeding shed to produce the perfect offspring?
Oh, wow.
Jesus, what's wrong with these people? They have all week to think of questions. They come up with shit like that. Honestly, we're trained actors. We're RADA. We did rep for 20 years. We ended up here, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Dear God, we're waiting for the next Rattigan revival so we can tread the boards again. But so we're reduced to this. No idea.
Well, as you know, I'm a great promoter of diversity and equality, so
Yes.
I'd put Rebecca Curtis with Rebecca Menzies and just see what happens.
Would you have adjudicating John Norris McSquirter?
No, John would be adjudicating from the wardrobe, hiding in the wardrobe, watching. Yeah, fucking referee.
Dedication, it's what you need.
Right.
It is for this game. Right.
Yeah.
Cannibalism.
Yes.
I needed to come on to this because
you do.
You both said to me off air about 3 weeks ago.
But cannibalism isn't entirely bad.
Yes.
Absolutely. I was shocked at this. This could be an off-air cut show, but you said nuclear bang, all nuclear bombs have dropped. There's us three like I wild, and we're managing to survive in fucking wilderness.
Living a bit like we do now.
Yeah, nuclear winter. Yeah, exactly.
Fucking berries have run out off the tree.
Yeah.
No berries left, and fucking rabbits are all dead from radiation. Can't eat them. And you both said, you bastards, you'd fucking eat me.
Yeah.
I'd be first to go. This is disgraceful. Right? You even said what you'd fucking do. And what did you say you'd do? Liver and fucking heart.
You've got to know the offal first, because that's the stuff that won't keep. So you'd start with liver, kidneys, and ticker.
Yeah. You'd have an apple in your mouth and we'd be spit roasting you over fucking open
some
fire.
faggots out of lungs.
Why the fuck would you want my liver?
Well,
you'll get drunk.
Well, I was going to say, it'd be well marinated, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
This is a refreshing thought. If I'm stuck with you two, you both got to come for me.
We'd be eyeing you up. Yeah, we'd be sort of, doing the old butcher's cut.
So that's it. So you all know now I'm first to go in that situation. Yes. Final question, of course, with Sam the cat.
Yes.
I went to a car boot sale today. Normally there are a lot of bargains, but today was shit. What's the best bargain you've ever had in your life? It could be a car, woman, antique, share purchase, or a bet that was such good value it was verging on a Palpera. And did you exploit it to the max? Who's first to go on this?
I had a share tip years ago, and I can't even remember what the company was, but a fella I know said that his mum was the secretary of some particular company, and she was shagging the chairman. And Pillow Talk said that company was in line to be taken over. And I bought, it was only a few £100 worth of shares, and they quadrupled in value in 2 weeks after it was announced. So that was the best bit of info I ever had on really anything relating to shares. That was proper info. So, that was the best bargain, I suppose, I ever had.
I think the most stupidest thing that's happened to me, and again, this is probably why I'm not like in Veach territory and people like that, right? Because this happened to me a long time ago, and I've got a good friend of mine, a really good friend of mine. He said to me, he says, I urge you, to the best of my abilities, and he was a very sharp cookie, you need to buy as much Bitcoin you can now. It was literally a quid.
Oh,
a coin. I know.
Pain. I can feel it. Carry on.
This was early 2000, and I kept meaning to get round to it. One of them, you've had that conversation, and it's in your inbox, but you're kind of thinking, I'll do it next week. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. But then again, I think it's one of them, Chris, isn't it? Knowing how we live life, if I buy a quid and suddenly it's gone to 20 quid, I'm probably getting out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you think, never go skint, taking a profit, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
20 times your money. So if I bought, say, a grand's worth, and it's now worth 20 grand, we'll take 20, don't we?
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? That is the problem. You think you're doing right.
But imagine if you'd have stayed into that to this day.
Oh, yeah, man.
Jesus Christ.
Totally.
I would say that's probably my biggest nightmare in life, because this guy now, he doesn't speak to me anymore.
Sums it up, really, doesn't it?
He's probably somewhere very nice. I don't know, but he was a good friend back in the day, and There you go. It's your decisions in life. Sometimes we do make errors. John, you.
I got a Volvo 343 for 90 quid once.
Oh, you were
Tank.
turned over, weren't you? You
Yeah.
were well ripped off, weren't
No,
you?
I didn't think so. There was three of us going to do 3 days at York, and by sheer stroke of genius, none of us had a car on the road at the time. And I went to Cheap Cars at Skinner Street, Stockton. Found this thing that had about a week's tax left on it, a fortnight's test, a 90 quid price tag. So instead of us all going on the train 3 days, I bought this fucking Volvo. I mean, to say I got the max out of it is an understatement, because it actually caught fire on the way back at a place called Swainby, just before Stokesley on the way back. So I almost made it home. I was about 16 miles from home when the car finally gave up the ghost and caught fire, and we had to bail out.
Okay, no.
God.
So I mean, really, I got my money's worth there, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely.
3 trips to York and a near-death experience.
They use them in Ukraine now, front line, won't they? Even Russian tanks can't shell them fuckers.
No.
No, true.
They'd survive anything.
It kept going a good mile when it was on fire. I was trying to get to the garage at Swainby, and the flames were coming up out the bonnet, and I thought, I can do this. I saw it in a cartoon once. I just about got to the garage at Swainby as was, and I had to give up the ghost because I couldn't see for flames and smoke. And then we all had to bail out the car, of course, and I had to put the fire out with my barber jacket, which
Oh my God.
was a bit sickening, but there you go.
Yeah, so barber jacket probably cost more than Volvo.
I did.
Yeah.
Fucking
dear now, even like they're sort of the wax jacket, like 300-400 quid.
Yeah.
Just for the ordinary one. Unreal.
Right. I think we'll cut it there. I hope you enjoyed it this week. We're back as normal this time next Sunday. The next tipping podcast you'll receive from us after quite a successful weekend tipping. John coming up with a 10-1 winner, myself with the 4-1 and the 5-2 winner. We're back for the Dante Meet podcast, which will be available on Patreon on Monday of Dante Week, and then available free to air on Wednesday morning. New people that support us but won't pay. That's all from us. Bye for now.